Welcome to the latest episode of Policy Beyond Politics. In this show, we are going to discuss the feasibility and the legality to conduct parliament sessions online, and also the various options that chairman of the House Rajya Sabha and the speaker of the House Lok Sabha have got to kickstart the monsoon sessions. To discuss this, I am joined by Mr. Chakshu Roy from PRS Legislature, Delhi. Welcome, Chakshu, to this show. Chakshu, I read your article appeared on Indian Express and also few discussions that you had on various media platforms regarding the feasibility of conducting parliament sessions online. And in fact, we are waiting for the monsoon session to be started. Is it legally possible? Is it feasible to have parliament session to be conducted on an online platform?
Raj, thank you for having me on your show. I've long appreciated the work that CPPR has done over the years, and I'm glad that you've taken this issue for discussion today in your program. Let me step back a little bit to first answer as to why is it necessary to have not only parliament but also state legislatures their sessions regularly. Now, the idea of the legislature is that the legislature is supposed to hold the government accountable to all the work that the government is doing. Now, the only way legislature can do that is when there is a meeting of the legislature, either a meeting of the full house or a meeting of the committees of the legislature. Now, our constitution says that there is no fixed number of days in which the legislature has to meet. The only thing it specifies is that legislature's session 6 months gap should not arise between two sessions of the legislature. Now, Parliament's budget session finished on the 23rd of March. So the next occurrence for the session of Parliament would be somewhere in September. Now, usually the session of Parliament is held, between third week of July and August. So that's roughly the time that it's held. Now, so that's for Parliament. State legislatures meet for even fewer days in a year. Parliament meet for anywhere between 70 to 80 days in a year. State legislatures, on average, would meet anywhere between 35 to 50 days a year. Some legislatures, like the legislature of Kerala, is better. Other legislatures, are not so good. They would meet anywhere between 20 to 30 days a year. Now, in this unprecedented times, it is important for legislatures to meet because there is a lot of government activity on the ground. So both the central and the state government are making ordinances because legislatures are not in session. And there is a need to discuss these ordinances in detail because whenever you make an ordinance, it's an emergent or an emergency kind of a situation, right? A situation that you did not anticipate, and legislature is not in session, that's why you're making it. But legislations which are made in such a way need to then be scrutinized even more deeply by the entire sitting of the House. And also, a lot of action is being taken on the ground. A lot of notifications and orders are being issued in a range of areas. And the legislature should also be taking a look at those and seeing as to whether those dedicated legislations are working well on the ground. Now comes the question of, is it possible legally to hold a session of the legislature? And, what are the possible mechanisms in which it can be done? So, my reading of the rules of the legislature seem to suggest that the meeting of a legislature can be held anywhere, as long as the meeting is chaired by, the presiding officer. In the case of Rajya Sabha,
now you're not discussing the online conduct of the procedures, but you're exploring the options having these sittings not in Delhi but elsewhere in the country?
Yeah, it can be within Delhi also, and
Okay.
then I'll come to the online part.
Sure.
Now, as long as the sitting of a legislature is presided, by the presiding officer, it is a valid sitting. And an example of that, where legislatures meet outside of state capitals, is across the country. So in Karnataka, the legislature, the Vidhan Sabha meets in Bangalore and also in Belgaum. In Maharashtra, it meets in Bombay and in Nagpur. In Himachal Pradesh, it meets in Dharamshala and Shimla. So there are a lot of examples around that. For Parliament, one possibility that was reported in the media was that Vigyan Bhavan could be explored as a venue, because it's a large venue and MPs can sit at a distance. So that is being explored. But there is a challenge. The challenge is not only the physical distance. The challenge is also for state legislatures. It is much easier because MLA can come from within the state, right? And they can drive in their cars or they can take a train. In Delhi, MPs have to come from all across the country, and there is a little bit of a challenge with quarantine rules and whatnot. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is obviously, how do you physically separate people so that everybody stays safe? Now, one option that is being explored in other countries is that rather than having fully online or fully physical, legislatures are meeting in some kind of a hybrid format. Now, a hybrid format could be that some MPs are physically present and some MPs are there on a video conference. So possibly that's one option that can be explored.
I think that was done in UK. House of Commons met like that.
Correct. So that is being done in UK. There are some examples. There are some examples in France. There are some examples in Latin America, where there is a mix of either fully online or fully physical with distance maintained, or a hybrid approach. Right? So I think there is some element of the three models that can be explored by our legislatures. And I'll give another example. So for example, I think a day or two ago, the governor of Andhra Pradesh addressed the joint sitting of the Andhra Pradesh Assembly and Andhra Pradesh Council. And he addressed them, or at least the business of the House suggested that the governor was going to address the MLAs through a video conference. Now, the governor is also part of the legislature, right? And in my opinion, these unprecedented times call for a slightly more broader thinking about what is it that can be done to get our legislatures functioning.
So here, I'm trying to recall one incident that occurred in Kerala Assembly. One of the members, one of the MLAs, the bill that he wanted to present on the floor of the House, I don't know whether it was inadvertently, he posted that on his Facebook page. And the Speaker of the Assembly, he said, there is a privilege, there is a particular privilege that the Assembly enjoys. So in these scenarios, the privileges, the secrecy, the confidentiality, there is always a question of whether there could be a breach. I know these parliament procedures are telecast live on television. At the same time, but the confidentiality part, or more importantly, I would say the privilege part. And how are we going to ensure those things, or is it the time to modify some of these privileges that we inherited from our the system that we practiced or we tried to imbibe?
Dharmraj, I think you're raising a valuable point. And the incident in the Kerala legislature that you mentioned, I recall that incident, and I think the issue there was that the then speaker suggested that giving advance publicity to a private member legislation was to a certain extent in breach of the rules and regulations of the Vidhan Sabha. But these are genuine concerns. How do you ensure that when MPs are not physically present, or and there are elements of confidentiality to be maintained, how does the House function in that manner? Now, regarding the full sitting of the House, which is where all MLAs or all MPs come and assemble and meet, it is not so much of a problem, because the full sitting of the House is telecast live, and it has been telecast live either on radio or television for a long time. But it does present a challenge as to how to manage the House, right? I mean, how do you ensure that somebody who's in video does the same kind of opportunity to speak as somebody who's physically present? And the challenge also is it takes away a little bit from the proceedings itself. When MPs are sitting together in the House, or MLAs are sitting together in the House, there is that camaraderie, there is a back and forth, there is that repartee, and some of that could be lost when they can't see each other, or they can only see each other on a video conference. So I think those are genuine concerns, and we should figure out mechanisms of addressing those concerns. These concerns should not come in the way of completely dismissing an idea and saying, well, you know what, this is something that we can't do. The point of secrecy in parliamentary proceedings becomes even more important when it comes to committee meetings, because the committee meetings were designed to be secret so that they could work as technical bodies. And both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha Secretariat have been racking their brains about how is it that they can continue to hold these meetings, protect the secrecy of these meetings, so that members can participate in these meetings as experts and not as party representatives. And those discussions are currently underway. But probably what it would require is, some kind of a change to parliamentary rules. And this is a change that will not only work well in the current circumstances of the pandemic, but they might come in handy even for the future. So, for example, you and I are separated by thousands of kilometers, and we can have this conversation. And imagine you had to come to Parliament to testify before a committee. If the rules were changed and you were allowed to testify by video conference, it would make it that much more easier. We would be able to get experts from around the world to come and share their knowledge with our parliamentary committees. So whenever the House meets next, one of the things that it should put on its agenda is to how to tweak these rules to make these things happen.
So who should do that? Is it the chairman and his office for Rajya Sabha, and speaker and his staff, his secretariat? Are they the final authority to decide on this thing, or they will also consult government of the day to decide how to proceed from here?
Well, actually, the process for changing rules is a consultative process which involves all MPs and all political parties. Right? Our constitution says that Parliament will fix its own rules for its functioning, and similarly for state legislatures, they decide their own rules as to how they will function. And that's why you notice that even within Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the rules are different. The rules are different between one state assembly versus the other states. So this is a process that's going to be within the four walls of Parliament. So MPs, so both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have a rules committee, and this committee has representation from all parties. The committees are headed by the chairman and the presiding officer, the speaker, and these committees then propose to the House as to what rules should be changed. If the House accepts, then the rules are changed. And these rules, the last time these rules changed significantly was back in the early 90s when we started our standing committee system. And I was reading a news report that the Lok Sabha speaker has actually asked for overhauling of these rules. So probably that's a step in the right direction.
And the final, we also have this Rajya Sabha channel, Lok Sabha channel, and etc. for exclusive telecast of parliamentary procedures. So, do you think if you're moving to that online platform in times of the situations like this, emergency situations like this, do you think that government also has to, or the system has to think about a dedicated platform which probably will ensure secrecy, confidentiality, and privileges also?
I think not only will we need dedicated platforms for parliament, but we'll need such dedicated platforms which are secure, which can ensure privacy, both for the executive and for the judiciary. And not only for higher judiciary, which is Supreme Court and the High Courts, even district courts will require some kind of a secure system where people can come and petition and get their grievances heard. In terms of parliament, it might be a little bit easier because our parliament is fairly technologically sophisticated. In fact, a lot of the parliament's work happens paperless. MPs don't have to come to the house to file questions. They don't have to come to the house to file their motions. A lot of the work, they can just log into a parliament portal and put in their questions there. And MPs are also adept at using technology. Parliament introduced technology quite some time ago. When MPs are sitting in the house, they have Wi-Fi connections. They can access content. Even in state legislatures, the last time I visited your state legislature in Trivandrum, you would have noticed that there are full computer screens, within the Vidhan Sabha where people can access documents and the day's agenda. So I think some bit of the technology infrastructure is there, and there is some bit of thinking that would be required as to how to leverage existing technology or bring in new systems to allow for a much more secure way of functioning. After all, we wouldn't want the proceeding of the legislature to get interrupted by somebody coming in and disturbing who's not a member of the house. So those are definitely concerns. So step one would be, and maybe these steps should run in parallel. So thinking about what rule changes are required and thinking about what will be the right technology. These are two steps that can run in parallel, so that when the rule change happens, the technology can be rolled out seamlessly, MPs and MLAs can be trained on it, and everybody can then start using it as and when the situation arises.
Okay. So, Chakshu, my concluding remarks, or probably you could comment also, from a representative democracy to a participative democracy, these kinds of online platforms, engagement, the sittings of parliament without any disruption, where the aid of technology are very important, right? That would probably help us to strengthen our institution mechanisms, because there's a lot of discussions about from the COVID time till yesterday we were having this India-China fiasco, and people are alleging that there is no parliamentary oversight. I mean, they are not taken into confidence, or parliament is not in session, so government is not accountable to what decisions they are taking. So especially this time, it actually exposes some of the defects and deficiencies, the gaps in the system, right? So I'm sure this the technology would be able help us to survive and sustain the process, and also to strengthen the democratic institutions. So yeah.
Manoj, I completely agree with you. Figuring out how can you bring institutions closer to people, figuring out how in times of crisis can institutions continue to function is absolutely important. And it is in times of crisis do the strength of these institutions get tested. And we, as you rightly pointed out, we identify where the gaps are so that we can identify them and then fill them.
So thank you so much, Chakshu, for your valuable insights. I'm sure we will take this discussion forward, and I'm sure this voice will be heard by the decision makers, and they will take the appropriate actions and decisions in the coming days. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your participation.
So what the discussion enlightens us is how to ensure the accountability, how to make our parliamentary procedures a little more transparent, how to ensure that the parliament is in session without any disturbance and disruptions like this, and how we can use technology as an aid to improve our functions of the democratic institutions in the country. I think this whole crisis gives us a number of opportunities to explore, and I'm sure this could be a very valuable insight and information to all those who are watching this show. Thank you so much for your time, and if you like this video, please share it among your friends, among your networks, and please share your feedback, and follow our hashtag Policy Beyond Politics. And I would be back with another episode in the next week. Thank you so much.